becoming an MFD gave me the freedom to prioritize what was actually right for the clients, not just what needed to be sold that month. It's about genuinely helping people build wealth and financial security in a way that makes sense to them. I guess that's what drove me to become an individual MFD. Certainly, stepping out as an independent professional is a challenging journey. One of the biggest hurdles I faced was transitioning from a well-established institution to building my own identity. When you work with a large bank or a mutual fund house, you have the advantage of an established brand backing you. Clients recognize the institution and it's very easy for you to secure appointments. Just pick up the phone, call the client, I'm calling from so-and-so place, and you get the appointment. However, once you step out on your own, you realize that you no longer have that visiting card. Not in the literal sense, but in terms of brand credibility. The challenge then becomes building your own reputation from ground up, ensuring that clients seek you out for advice rather than brand you were previously associated with. Another significant challenge was balancing professional and personal life. As an independent advisor, you wear multiple hats. You are just not the financial planner, but you are a business owner, a strategist, a marketing person. You're the tech support of your company also. In my case, a mother also. Managing these responsibilities simultaneously required a great deal of adaptability and discipline. Additionally, independent professionals often compete with large institutions that have aggressive sales strategies and vast resources, including strong sales force on ground. Competing in that space meant I had to differentiate myself in a way that larger firms couldn't. The way I overcame these challenges was through continuous education and creating a strong value proposition for my clients. By continuously upgrading my knowledge and offering clients personalized, high-quality advice, I was able to build trust and credibility over time. Well, I motivate women to take charge of their finances by focusing on two key aspects: creating interest and then building motivation. Interest comes first. To actively manage your finances, a person needs to be curious, aware, and willing to learn more about the financial markets. My primary role or endeavor at all times is to spark that curiosity and interest, because without genuine interest, motivation won't sustain. Secondly, when someone new to financial market approaches me, I ensure that the conversation is simple and jargon-free. Financial concepts, our financial markets, it's intimidating, it's full of jargons. But by breaking them down into relatable and easy to understand terms, I help them feel more confident and engaged. This in turn builds motivation, making them more proactive about their financial well-being. Staying consistent and keeping emotions in check is one. Consistency pays. You've got to hold on to your investments and not let every market swing mess your head up. It's easy to get psyched out when things go up and down. By staying the course is what really matters in the long run. Secondly, I think greed and fear are here to stay. Greed and fear drive the market, always have and always will. In words of the greatest investor of all times, we know that we have to be fearful when others are greedy and we have to be greedy when others are fearful. But in reality, only the opposite happens. I have been in the market since 2003 and this psyche repeats. When the greed cycle is on, invariably people tend to get greedier. And when the fear kicks in, everyone panics. Let the market do its thing. At the end of the day, investing is about doing your bit, staying consistent and letting the market do its bit. You don't need to chase every opportunity or time the market perfectly. Stay invested, stay patient, and let compounding work its magic. Yes, there has definitely been an increase in the number of women investors in the market. However, I still feel that there's a long way to go, not just in terms of participation, but also in terms of building deeper understanding of investment. Terms like SIPs have become household names, which is a great sign, but there's still a knowledge gap. I often have people come to me and say that I want to invest in an SIP, and when I say that, okay, let's go ahead with this mutual fund, they'll say, no, not the mutual fund, the SIP. So that tells me that while the awareness has increased, the understanding of how the investment actually works still needs improvement. So yes, participation of women in investing is growing, but there's still work to be done in terms of financial literacy and long-term investment discipline. For women with irregular income, the approach to investment can be broken down into two parts. Women with irregular income in an investable form. This refers to women whose earnings, though irregular, are getting credited to their bank accounts. For them, a wide range of investment opportunities are available. The key is to take small but consistent steps towards building a portfolio. I have worked with a woman investor who started with just 5,000 in SIP. She remained extremely disciplined, gradually increased her contributions, and today that initial commitment has grown into a portfolio of 60-70 lakhs. An incredible example of the power of consistency in investing. For women who have their income in bank account, the challenge isn't access to investments, but taking that first step and staying committed. Women with irregular income in non-investable form, mostly cash, now that's where the real challenge is. The bigger challenge lies with women, especially homemakers, who receive their income in cash, typically for managing household expenses. They handle this job beautifully, often saving a portion and even sending some amount to their parents and siblings. And however, the issue is that these savings remain in cash, making it difficult to invest through formal channels. Since this cash deposit can have regulatory restrictions, these women are left with limited options for them. One practical way to utilize their savings is by purchasing small assets like gold or silver coins. While this may not be the most efficient investment strategy, it allows them to convert their savings into tangible assets, preserving value over time. The key challenge here isn't just how to invest, but how to bring this money into the banking system, from where the regulated investments can be rooted. Take charge of your money, because financial independence is true freedom. Whether you earn or manage the home, understanding and controlling your finances gives you security, confidence, and choice of life. Don't leave money matters to someone else. Learn, invest, and make informed decisions. You don't need to be an expert, but you do need to be involved. Start small, stay consistent, and build wealth on your own terms.
Stay tuned for episode 4 on the 21st of March at 10 a.m.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.